Hey Z, I am finishing my eyebrows, as you can tell.
Girl, you
I'm
better
going
than
to do
me.
that right now.
My face is all natural today. I couldn't do it. I'm
How are
still.
you feeling?
I'm okay. I think I'm just tired because it was a long week and
Okay.
just just like having the procedure on Monday and then having to start work on Wednesday and onboarding and so
Yeah.
I'm a crash afterwards. So I'm okay to go to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all just may not get like Zaynab 3.0.
All right. All good. All good.
You're gonna get like Zaynab 2.0 maybe. No, I'm just teasing. I'm okay. I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. The
Good.
week was good. I'm grateful that everything came together for me because I
Mm-hmm.
was nervous and it was difficult because I didn't know when I was gonna get this job, if I was gonna get the job, and I also didn't know, um, like I had already moved my procedure like twice, so I was like, I gotta get this done because it's affecting my braces
Mm.
progression. So, needless to say, I was just like, okay, I'm
Okay.
gonna go with it. So just really
Good.
quickly for the
Yes, ma'am.
reflection parts, I'm thinking what we can do is we can either have everybody um, share their thoughts for a few minutes,
Okay.
or we can take the approach where we just throw the question out and then we can come back to it at the end. What do you think?
Um,
By the
it is.
way,
Yes.
I said your
Oh.
makeup is nice.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I hate that you're ice in your face.
Oh, it's
Um, let me just put a message in the waiting room. Um, I think if we have a smaller crowd, then we just let them speak.
okay.
But we
Okay.
got to limit it to like a few responses.
Okay. I'll let you control that part of it. I'm not really
Okay.
pressed. Just the only other thing is like I kind of took the approach of more of handling branding from career development and less of marketing, like social media branding type, but which is more broader
Yeah.
because I think that it's more relatable if we talk about everybody's individual career aspirations as opposed to like how do you build a social media presence, so I'm going to talk about that in the beginning.
Okay.
I'll talk about it in the beginning so that people know that there's some context to it, and we kind of laid it out already with the flyer because it's a resume and things like that, so
Gotcha.
sounds good.
Um, yes,
I need
but
you to make me a host
I'm
so I
gonna
can.
make you co-host because I knew that I could do it. I had my settings wrong because I've been paying for it and I was like, what? So we only have one person in the waiting room.
Okay, well, we'll hold tight for a little bit.
We'll hold for a little bit. That's
Yeah,
why
it's
I
only
just
10:58. People tend to come in a little bit later, so
yeah, yeah. Okay.
we're gonna do this share. Okay, cool.
Hmm.
And perfect.
Yeah, I thought it. I tried to read through. I was like, "Oh, this is intense. I'm not gonna be able to read through all of it." So I skimmed through the last parts, and I was like, "Okay, that's good."
It came together. We discussed so many great things, but honestly, because we only have an hour, I wanted to just kind of hit the most important spots just because and I'm really going to try and not focus too much on the undergrad experience because um, there's still a tremendous amount of value for our Gap women. So,
Yeah, and let's see. I haven't let anyone in. So I had this initial thought to have events um, co-hosted with the regions primarily for promotion get the
Yeah.
word out. And it's like, oh, okay. I don't
Yeah.
see anybody from the Northeast on. So there's that. But that's all
Okay.
good.
Well, if we only have a handful of people, we can make it even more personable, you know.
Yeah, right. For
You're more
sure.
than welcome to record if you want as well.
Yeah, so I have set up my Zoom to record, and then what I know I did with the last event, the Policing in America, I did on Tuesday. So I sent it to Liz as the VPMA, and she like edited the parts out, like this part, to just have it and put on like our YouTube channel. This probably will stick more internally, right, as
Okay.
a internal guide. But yeah, so
Okay.
I'm gonna just record moving forward. I think it's easier to remember, and then you can always be like, I don't want it, and then
Okay,
so
great.
yeah. So still just Eliza. Let me see if anybody put anything on any of the any posters anywhere.
Well, we are up to 2 people now waiting, so that's good.
Oh, we've increased. We've doubled our attendees.
We'll probably trickle in. Do you know if Ketzel posted it in the TNX and networking? Okay, we're up to 3. I think we can.
I posted it there. You know what I didn't do, but it's like we didn't want to put it on social because it's more internal. So
Yeah,
I
gotcha.
posted it there. I can probably start. You want me to start? I can start
Yeah,
letting people
go
in.
ahead. Let's get started. We want to be cognizant of everybody's time.
Okay, good morning.
Good
And
morning. Hi,
our,
Courtney.
hi, Courtney, Eliza.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
Really?
Good.
Good.
Yeah, you know, you got to convince yourself. I'm good. I'm good. So, yeah, we're gonna give about a minute or so more, and then we're just gonna get started here. Here we go. And Natalie, where are you located? I'm not sure I know Natalie. Well,
Georgia. I'm a part of ZIAP.
Zayep. Thank you.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
cool.
Yep.
Natalie, did you cross Zeta chapter?
No, I crossed through ZIAP in 2016.
Oh, you did? I wasn't there.
No, you weren't there, but I've heard of you. I've heard great things about you.
Oh, thank you. Who was your dean?
Adia
Okay.
and Latina was the ADOI.
Oh, my friends.
Haven't talked to Adia in a long time. Wow, nice.
Yeah, I know.
Cool. All right, my friends. You want to get the ball rolling here, Miss Z?
Sure. So thank you, everyone. We have a nice, small, intimate group on this beautiful, hopefully where you are, Saturday morning. I want to preface by saying, don't be alarmed. I have a massive ice pack here because I have my wisdom teeth removed on Monday. So we're still a little puffy, but we're functioning. So that's all that matters. But today we're going to be talking about building your professional brand through Theta Nu Xi. And when me and Margie began discussing this topic, we wanted to make sure that we really targeted not just the undergrad experience, which is typically where a lot of these conversations go, but also like the gap experience and show the evolution and the growth as a gap woman in terms of Theta Nu Xi and how you can use that in your career the farther you are away from active membership. So just to kind of give you a breakdown of what we're going to be talking about. In terms of branding, the focus is really going to be on professional marketability, excuse me, and the employability of your skills. As we know, branding, there is a large scope in terms of how you can talk about branding, especially with social media. We have a lot of opportunities for us to create a brand for ourselves in a lot of these social spaces. I really wanted us to emphasize on some of the still common practices of how do you use your branding for your personal career development, industry or job that you're in. So that will be the focus of this conversation, but the door is open for us to discuss other elements of branding as well, okay? So just to kind of give you a deeper preview of some of the things I want to talk about. The first is, well, this is not in any particular order, but we're going to touch on the spaces to best invest in your professional branding, how to determine what is your professional brand. Do you put TNX on your resume? That's a big topic that we encounter quite a bit. I have some thoughts on it. And then generational growth through TNX, and I'll explain that a little bit further, okay? So to give some context in terms of how to start the conversation, I wanted us to kind of look at the fourth industrial revolution. And that's kind of where we are now, starting in 2020. I'll read this for you. So the fourth industrial revolution is a new chapter in human development enabled by extraordinary technology advances that merges the physical, digital, and biological worlds. It's forcing us to rethink how countries develop, how organizations create value, and even what it means to be human. The fourth industrial revolution is about the opportunity to help everyone, including leaders like ourselves, policymakers, and people from all income groups and nations, to harness converging technologies to create an inclusive, human-centered future. The vision is to look beyond technology and find ways to give the most significant number of people the ability to impact their families, organizations, and communities positively. And that was adapted from the World Economic Forum. The reason why I wanted to include this in is because especially being a part of this organization, we are often granted the opportunity to interact in inclusive, human-centered spaces. And so because the fourth industrial revolution is about community and inclusivity, we kind of have, I guess you could say, a leg up in the race in terms of being able to interact in those spaces and cultivate change for others in those spaces, right? Be influencers. So with the first industrial revolution, there have been some identified skills that people in the current job market and the future job market should be focusing on. And the reason why I highlighted this is, again, when it comes to your personal development, there's a connection that we can make between who we are as individual professionals and how we can use these skills that we've developed through Theta Nu Xi in our professional growth. So the skills include complex problem solving, coordinating with others, people management, critical thinking, negotiation, cognitive flexibility, service orientation, judgment and decision making, emotional intelligence, creativity, and active listening. And as I read through the list, I personally can think of various times when I had the opportunity to utilize these skills, specifically in the TNX space, even right now with us meeting. So again, we already have an advantage because we have been exposed to these opportunities to utilize these skills. So I talked about skills, needs, and values, right? So when it comes to using your brand, with your Theta Nu Xi brand and your personal development, I believe that the best way to do that is to identify what your skills are, what you need and what you value, and build on top of that. How do you cultivate those things? So when it comes to needs and values, I focused on generational needs and values. A lot of us are millennials and Gen Z, right? So what do we value? Transparency and autonomy, making a social impact, mental health awareness, having holistic and authentic experiences, developing online technologically based relationships, okay? This again, it's about building on top, creating a foundation. Excuse me. So next, I wanted to mention that Greek life provides the opportunity to cultivate these skills, starting from your undergrad experience and then post-grad, when we start to break off into more smaller, I guess you could say more interest-focused groups within Theta Nu Xi. But you will always see these opportunities to cultivate your needs and values and these specific skills, okay? So what's the connection to Greek life? You want to use your time to build your employable skills. So the 11 skills that I mentioned, right? What are you doing to invest in those skills? What are you doing? How conscious are you of using them on your day-to-day basis? Explore what you value and how TNX contributes to that. I'm going to give you guys a really great example of how to do that, an activity. Invest in mutually beneficial relationships. I had to put this down just for my own personal, I guess you could say, bias, because I don't want to sit up here and sugarcoat like every relationship that we encounter in Theta Nu Xi is a mutually beneficial one. There are some that are not always healthy, some are toxic. And I think, especially when we're younger in the process, we believe like, oh, we have to be all in for the team. And I'm telling you right now, it's not true. If people are not treating you the way that in a healthy, safe, non-toxic manner, then that's not a relationship you need to cultivate, you know? So seek out relationships that are really going to help you, and then you can also mutually help other people, okay? Maximize social, community, and educational experiences. This is the foundation that Theta Nu Xi creates for you. So one of the things that I want everybody to be aware of, that even though we're talking specifically about Theta Nu Xi is a bridge to other opportunities. By being a part of this association, we're opening ourselves up to other opportunities, more professional associations, community leadership positions, even political leadership positions. So when you have the opportunity to expand outside of Theta Nu Xi, take it. Don't limit yourself just to, well, I do stuff with my sorority. You have a lot of options. And lastly, and this is really the crux of this presentation, is learning how to speak to the value of your skills and the impact that they make, right? So this is about professional branding. This is about your professional development. At the end of the day, your growth individually is about how well are you aware of the impact that you make, the expertise that you have, and the contributions that you make in your role, in your job, in your career, your industry. Okay, so let's talk about spaces to best invest in your professional branding. The number one offline space is through your resume. And we're gonna really dig into how to utilize your resume. But we live in a very online space. So professionally, LinkedIn has really grown tremendously in terms of creating opportunities for people to really demonstrate who they are as an expert, what's their professional brand. And then also we still have those various other social media outlets. Twitter is still very huge. Facebook is great in terms of group cultivation. As you know, many of us are part of the TNX jobs and networking group, but there's other, I forgot the name of the, what we call our all smaller groups in TNX, Margie, what are those called?
Affinity groups? The
Yes, affinity group, right, exactly. So again, utilizing those spaces, this is about relationship building. It's about having conversations with other individuals and utilizing those relationships for our own personal growth. So let's talk about how we determine what your brand is. The first thing you need to ask yourself is, what is your unique expertise? And I'm going to tell you right now, that's not something that comes right away. For some people, it takes years to figure that out. The goal, though, is to at least start by asking the question. And if you've been in a presentation with me, I talk a lot about creating space. When we ask certain questions, we create the space for those questions to be answered, right? It's like I call it a spiritual universal experience. So by allowing yourself to just explore what is my unique, excuse me, expertise, you're opening up the opportunity for you to learn what your brand is. So more specific questions to ask is, within your industry, the one that you are currently at, maybe right now, because that may change, what do you naturally excel at? What skills have you been formally recognized for? What skills give you a sense of accomplishment, right? It satisfies your needs and your values. What would you do for free if you could? I ask this question a lot. And a lot of times people shy away from these questions because it's kind of this mindset like, well, this is all great, but I still have to pay my bills. Two things can happen at once. You can explore what your unique expertise is, what you're good at, what you would do for free, and you can still work to survive. Have your means to an end. And eventually the goal is for those two to merge, and then you have a career that aligns with your mental, emotional, spiritual needs, and you make money doing it at the same time, if you want to. Some people don't want to monetize their passions. They just want to be able to create time so they can invest more of their time into it.
And see, if I could just sneak in here real quick and just say, I think this exercise, if you haven't done this exercise, my mentor really pushed me to do this exercise, and it has helped tremendously. I think I know we'll get to, like, I changed sort of my whole LinkedIn profile and you know how that's written out, but it's also very clear to me in terms of my value and what I can bring to a company. And then if you go to, like, I know we're doing like online, but online or in-person networking sessions, you are very clear what you're good at, right? You know, and taking, because he told me to make a statement that I saw, I know we're going to get to, Z, and then I've updated my LinkedIn profile to kind of pull out, you know, 2 or 3 of those titles. So like, I am a community strategist, right?
Yes.
I am excellent at relationship building. I am a multicultural advocate, you know, and so just being very clear, like, that's what I can bring to the table. That's my expertise. It's really a good exercise.
Beautiful. Thank you for that, Margie. Thank you. And that's a great transition, because I wanted to demonstrate for myself how I was able to determine what my brand is. So here's my face. I have a little story to tell about this picture. So I needed to do website pictures because I rebranded myself, and I had just recently been laid off. So like, money was not, it just wasn't a thing. So I had a camera I had invested in a few years before. I stuck that sucker in front of the window. I was facing the window so that the light was facing me. I took a sheet and put it behind me. And I used my self timer and I took my own photos. I always tell that story because a lot of times we tell ourselves that we have to have certain things in place in order to, like, you know, create a brand or social media images. And I'm telling you right now, all you need is a little creativity and some resilience, and you can pull it out. So I give you a background on my TNX experience. The first leadership roles I had were was serving as Dean of Intake. I did it a couple times for Zeta. I was also the president. I was a chapter advisor. I eventually joined the regional leadership team as RD. I've been on a handful of national committees, including the convention committee, and I was briefly on the national board as, oh my God, VPMA. So the reason why I highlighted this is because from those experiences, I learned what were some of the things that I really valued, because I kept seeing the same types of spaces entering. Let me rephrase that. I kept seeing myself entering the same types of spaces. And so I asked, well, why is it that I keep wanting to take on these types of roles? What I eventually got to was that I value making an impact. I value empathetic experiences. That was something that you really experienced as a dean of intake for any of my previous deans who are in this conversation. I value training and teaching. You do that a lot as an advisor. Mentorship, you do that a lot as an advisor and as an RD. Being a catalyst for change, national committee participation. So from there, obviously my professional trajectory interceded in this process, and looking at the type of roles that I kept approaching and where I really excelled and where did I receive recognition, what was I doing, I eventually was able to create my brand and professional expertise. So what I have developed is, what I see for myself right now is someone who helps people find a job that aligns with their mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical needs by amplifying their voices and giving them the tools they need to succeed in the current job market. Now, this may evolve as time goes on, but again, the point is that I created the foundation by looking at the experiences that I had with Theta Nu Xi. I figured out what is it that I needed and I valued based on reoccurring themes that I kept experiencing, and I was able to create my brand. And one of the things I also want to mention to you all is that I obviously have my own business. I'm an entrepreneur, but I recently just got a job working for a private college, a for-profit boot camp as a career specialist. And the thing that cultivated me into that role is the brand that I had created for myself professionally. Even if I had not launched my own business, I still was able to do the work to figure out what it is that my expertise was, and I use that to my benefit to get the job that I have now. Okay, so there's levels to this that you can utilize. Okay, Margie, back to you.
Yeah, so I think since we have a small group right here, we can just go ahead and share if you want to unmute one or two people. What is your professional brand? If you could summarize, if you've done this, before, what is your professional brand? Anybody want to share on that?
If not, it's okay, because
It's okay too, yeah. Because
this was
Tanya
me.
unmuted. Go ahead.
I was trying to practice the two and then you situation, My brand is that I just talk all the time.
No, you're a rock star, Tanya. So glad that you're joining us.
Hi.
Hi.
So first, I just want to thank you. This presentation is so useful, and it is such great reflections. You have such great food for thought. I personally have. I don't have a direct answer to this right now. Well, I mean, I do, but I just wanted to say that, like, I have used and explored a lot of my professional uh, talents and abilities through Theta Nu Xi, and I think I joined Theta Nu Xi already as a graduate and alumni member, and I think that made a difference also. Like, I wasn't necessarily shy about trying to use my skills within the organization, but also just kind of explore what there was out there. So I chose to do a lot of public relations and communications work for the organization because that's what I was doing professionally. But I always tell people this, you can kind of use Theta Nu Xi as a playground where you can kind of, in your mind, pretend like Theta Nu Xi is one of your clients.
Yes.
And try new things, try innovative things, see what works, see what doesn't from everything that you learn in the outside world. And in a way, anything that you do will add to the experience that we're trying to create, because we are in desperate need of people helping us out, right, in so many ways. And it's also a safe space because you're not getting you're not getting paid to demonstrate, like you still have to do a good job, but it's not like you could let your client down, right? so I think of it as a really fantastic playground. Now, that doesn't answer your particular reflection question.
Oh, that was perfect because
Good. Mhm.
when we started, I think I mentioned a little bit when you joined in, you gave a great example of how you use data and design to build a foundation on top of,
Yeah.
right? So it's true. A lot of the individuals that I helped to get my business going were sisters, were members of the organization, and I started helping them for free. And eventually I was able to grow on top of it. Yeah. Margie.
I'm one of them. If you didn't catch that at the last professional development, I knew that he was doing this. And so my mentor, this is my mentor at work, he told me, when's the last time you've updated your resume? And I was like, I'm not looking for a job. He said, oh, Margie, you always have to have your resume updated. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess I didn't know that, right? And so, he told me to do that. And I was like, who do I know? Who do I know? I'm like, oh yeah, Z does this. So we met and I updated my resume. And that was right before I got my new role in the organization. So yeah, I mean, I think using the sorority as connections, right? With first kind of looking internally at our network for improving your resume, for rebranding or switching careers, all that kind of stuff. And then also, looking to others, if you're looking to apply for jobs in that industry and they work there. I saw somebody posted on the Facebook page the other day about Google, right? And connecting. It's like, yeah, use your connections. That's what
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. If there's anything that you can do, the number one thing you can do is just use your space for connection, especially since the world has opened up so much greater because of social media. It's harder to really find a space that works for you, and Theta News Eye is a great space for that. So let's talk about, thank you all for sharing, how to use TNX to create impact on your resume. And I think is it Elisa? Am I saying it right? Correct?
Elisa.
Elisa.
So Elisa asked a great question. That it was a great transition. Thank you. So I approach this from a generational approach because we're not all our connection with dating is all varies based on where we are in our individual lives. I kind of put it into three categories in terms of generational development. So the first generation I have is somebody who's considered entry level. This is somebody who's like 1 to 3 years post grad. They have some work experience, but it's less related to demonstrating their skills. Like they may have been doing things just to kind of survive, right? And they learned some things, but it wasn't really as industry specific. They're beginning to explore their professional identity. They're continuing their TNX experience through alumni support or regional leadership. So typically, we have a tremendous amount of members who, after they graduate, they, not a tremendous, but we have an equal amount that will not continue being active, but then we have some who continue to be active. So these are more for the people who are maybe still continuing to be active. The next generation is mid-level. So this is like 5 to 10 years post-grad. You have significant work-related experience that demonstrate your skills. You may have changed your industry. You're more clear about your expertise and your professional identity. You have continuing TNX activity through alumni support or regional and national leadership, or you may be an active and you're utilizing TNX solely for networking purposes, or you're more invested in other professional associations. So again, we have to normalize the idea that not everybody's going to continue to be active in the organization. And that's not just exclusive to Theta News Eye, that's just across the board with Greek life, right? Third one is your executive level. So you're 10 years post-grad, you have extensive work-related experience, you're more settled into your specific industry, you're clear by your expertise and professional identity, You have, you continue your TNX activities, but through local or alumni spaces. You may be inactive and you're only utilizing TNX solely for networking or social purposes, so maybe social media. And again, if you are invested in other activities outside of your work, they're more concentrated professional associations. That is something that you will see the further along you get in your career. You're more intentional about the where you're putting your time, in a nutshell. So it's great to do TNX stuff, but and this is with all respect to the organization, if I'm not getting a intrinsic return on my investment, I may not be willing to give as much time to the organization if my career growth is really a priority. Okay, it depends on the person. So regardless of where you fall, there is still value you can gain from Theta Nu Xi. Okay, you determine where that value lies for you. A reason why I wanted to say this is, again, it's normalizing this idea that there's a place for us in terms of our relationship with the sorority and our professional growth. I know I experienced for myself, and I graduated, Lord have mercy, I don't want to do the math. It's been a while.
Some time ago.
I'm like a few years from being 20 years since I crossed.
Yeah.
So in that time frame, I definitely had a moment where I was like, well, what's the purpose of Theta Nu Xi in my life? I'm one of those people that utilizes it more for the networking and the social interaction and less of the investment back into the organization. That may be something controversial to say, because obviously we want to be supporting our organization, especially financially, but life happens, right? We have families, we have partners, and we're not always able to give all that we can to the organization. It may not necessarily benefit us the way that it used to. So that was what I decided for myself. More social and networking experiences with Theta Nu Xi. And the reason why I laid out these social media spaces, because this is really a really big part of how we interact with each other is through social media. Mm-hmm. So next question.
Yeah, so this is in reflection of thinking about where you are at in your career, mm-hmm. and really bringing in my mentor into this too. When we talked about like those 3 different generation levels, what he told me to do was to write down all of my professional volunteer experience from college to the date that we were talking. And I know, because Eliza and Ariana, you had mentioned, well, how do you kind of organize it? First, you got to list it all out, right? So you can kind of see what's in front of you. And then I think you can tend to start to group competencies, right? Or skills together to kind of say, oh, I see a pattern, which this is what I did, at least. I see a pattern that I know. I like to call you AOR. I don't know why I've been doing that. It'll be a long list, but you got to start from somewhere. But that is also, I think, telling then of the work that you've done, right? Because people think like, oh, I just lead this ministry at my church every week. It's nothing. It's only 30 people. And it's like, that's important, because if you're like organizing the agenda, if you're implementing the workshops, right, that's experience that you put, you can figure out how it goes. So kind of just thinking where we are at in our career. Does anybody want to share?
Mm-hmm. And also in the context of the generational phases, like where would you see yourself? You can also put it in the chat if you want to as well. It's up to you.
Yeah, I'm definitely, I think, mid to the executive level.
Executive, yeah. Okay, no problem.
All good.
So let's keep moving. So Margie, you all are just helping me so much, because your segues are like perfect. So when should I include TNX in my resume? This is going to help you when you're trying to narrow down your list, okay?
Right.
The first instance is when you have limited professional experience. And I'm going to show you guys some examples of that. When you have leadership experience that demonstrated growth or increased responsibility. So let's say 1 year you were vice president, and then the following year you were elected president, right? That's upward mobility. When you expand your TNX experience off campus to include community involvement and professional association. So that again is trajectory, right? You want to include that on your resume. You've held regional and national leadership roles. This is not to diminish the roles that we do locally with our chapters, but, and I'm going to say this a couple of times, you have limited space on your resume, specifically to your resume. So you got to hit the most impactful stuff. Depending on where you are in your career, if you're in that mid-level, it may not be beneficial to put that you are the social chair for your GAP chapter. I'm just keeping it very 100% real with you, okay? Your industry has significant Greek life presence or community. This is something you're gonna see specifically if you're working in higher ed, in student affairs, academia, even if you're doing non-for-profit work. A lot of those positions tend to see people who have been a part of Greek organizations, okay? So what I wanted, okay, so let's talk about how we actually put it on our resume. First one, focus on your relevant experience that will demonstrate your relatable skills to the position or industry you're targeting. I cannot emphasize this. People will make a list and they're like, this was really important to me. I want to put it on on my resume. No, you can't do that. A resume is usually skimmed the first time the recruiter or the hiring manager sees it. So if you're hitting them with a whole bunch of stuff that's not going to create impact, you're wasting their time and your time. So you got to make sure that it's relevant to what you're targeting. Focus on impact. If the TNX experience you have doesn't relate to the industry or role you're targeting, then only list your leadership roles. Again, I was on a regional leadership team. I led a group of people. Leadership is more impactful, okay? Coordination roles are more impactful when you're managing a bigger process. Excuse me. Remember, there are other places you can demonstrate your TNX experience, like LinkedIn, and I'm going to show you guys an example of that. And then also just another real world, I'm just going to hit you with it. The further along with your career, the less room you have for TNX experience on your resume. On your resume. I'm not talking about LinkedIn. I'm talking about your resume specifically, because most resumes, when you're less than a couple years out of college, 1 page. When you're like 2 to 10 years, 2 pages. And depending on your industry, like for instance, if you work in higher ed, academia, also government jobs as well, they want you to have a longer resume. It's more of an industry standard, but even still, what you're putting needs to be relevant to the job that you're targeting. So this is hard for people who really loved all of the things that they did in Data News Eye. You're not abandoning it. You're just trying to get the greatest level of value you can out of it, okay? So let's look at some examples. So I think I might have to swap screens. Hold on 1 second. So I came up with some, where did Zoom go? Hold on. I have a Mac and I'm using my husband's computer and he has a PC. So
Macs are weird.
we're not gonna go down that road.
Okay, let's not.
No, I'm joking. Can you all see this?
Yeah, can you increase the font, zoom
The
in
size
a little
of
bit?
it?
Yeah, the size, make it bigger. A little bit more. There we go. That's good.
That's good? Okay. So I have 3 examples for you. This is Anaya. Anaya is right out of college, right? So she's got a 1-pager. Anaya does not have a lot of work experience, which is another reason why her education is at the top. Anaya, though, however, was the social chair for the Epsilon chapter, and that gave her a lot of great experience leading a process, leading other people. So we put that as a job on her resume. That's one example. This is not necessarily going to impact most people because most of us, especially my beautiful Gen Zers, have been in the work environment, a lot of them through high school, so they have some type of experience. But let's say you don't. Let's say you're just like, hey, I'm going to school, and that's it.
Yeah.
So this is one way that you can incorporate it on your resume.
And let me just say the numbers here, anytime that you can include metrics, like
Yes.
I moved things, I changed the budget by 30%. I, worked with 40 volunteers. Whatever numbers, as you can see in the 25% savings, that
Yes.
lets people know, oh, wow, that, that really stands out than just words.
Exactly.
So I think keeping that in mind.
Yes. Thank you for pointing that out, Margie. So let's go somebody who's like mid. This could also be mid to executive, but we have Lisa. So Lisa, if you look at her resume, she's got a bit more experience. So she's into 2 pages, right? Lisa does a lot of work in quality control. She does a lot of work in leadership, right? Process management. But she's also had the opportunity to do some things on a leadership level outside of her professional career. And she wants to put that on her resume. At the end of her resume, after education, we'll put community leadership, or we could say leadership involvement or community involvement. And it's a straight bullet. You will see some people who will put a description of what they did. I'm not against it, but if you have to sacrifice more information that's more relevant to the job to put it in, then don't put a sentence describing what you did. Saying that you were a national president, vice president of intake and expansion, the VP title and the national title alone demonstrates, a high ranking, significant leadership, or regional director, Now listen, most of us are not going to be holding those positions, and that's okay. It's not to diminish it, but even if this was just like chapter president for the Xi Epsilon chapter, that's perfectly fine because you're holding a leadership role. If you want to put your social chair, you can do that as well. I just say keep it to a 1 bullet. Don't put too much on there, and don't sacrifice any other information that may be relevant. Let's go to an, go ahead, Margie.
I was just going to say, this is where I think if you're being active in national committees, right?
Yes, yeah,
this
true.
looks good too, to say like National Convention Committee, some of the time you were a part of that, or, national standards, whatever it might be, because national does stand out.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
And again, that's if you feel like it's something that
relevant.
that's going to be very valuable to you, because Lisa, this is Lisa, I think it's Lisa.
Yes.
Because Lisa does a lot of work in process management. She's in more STEM fields. You may not see as many people who are doing, they're looking at your community involvement to see that you have a scale, but they're not necessarily too focused on the fact that it was a sorority. It's more about the fact that you are doing things in the community. Okay. So now let's give an example of somebody who actually has positions that are a little bit more related to TNX experience. So this individual does a lot of work in the community, working with Planned Parenthood, right? So there are a lot of community organizing, mobilizing, interacting with key stakeholders. We have a lot of great experience with that with Theta Nu Xi. Okay. However, I still kept it really simple. And I'm going to tell you why. Because again, as impactful as this is in terms of showing relevancy, it's not as impactful as this community manager and this. You don't want to sacrifice this to have this. Somebody may tell you different. This has just been my philosophy in terms of working with my clients. Many of them are sisters, and we want to get you the job. That's my focus, not necessarily I want you to feel good about yourself because you did a lot of things with Theta Nu Xi. Okay.
Yeah.
There's other options. Go ahead, Margie.
Oh, no. Go ahead. Finish up your statement.
So, well, no, you can go ahead because I'm going to transition into LinkedIn. So go ahead.
Okay, so I wanted to address Ariana's question because she asked why the VPIE position was relevant. So in the example that we just looked at, Lisa does quality control, which is, checking systems and processes and things like that. If you are the national VPIE, I know because now sitting on the board, I'm learning so much that Denise has just done. You have to talk with universities and their Greek life system to ensure that we are following the correct processes. And you have to do quality control of those either expansion teams or intake to make sure that no hazing is happening.
Right.
So that coordinates exactly, that's what quality control is, right? To make sure a product is, going a certain way. So that's definitely important. And I just like the point that Tanya made in chat too, is you kind of got to finesse it. That's why I always think it's really good to work with somebody on this. Like you make it, or you connect with our store work here with Z and you set up your resume, but you let somebody review it because you want to make sure that your job experience is connected. So Tanya had mentioned like using consulting and putting like, TNX as a DLC working there and also like her PR. I think that's fantastic because it aligns, right? It makes sense. So
right. And Margie, you did a great job of explaining the connection about the VPIE position. It's about how you're able to create the connection when you speak to it. So like, if you know that, like Margie said, you're doing process management, right? Your quality control, as long as you can speak to it, put it on there.
Right.
You can't make that connection, don't put it on there because you're going to be exposed. They're going to ask you like, so why they may ask you about it. And then you're like, I really liked this position. They ain't going to help you. So, and I think Tanya also, I'm glad that you mentioned that example, Tanya, because about consulting, because everybody's resume is going to vary in terms of how it's presented. Because Tanya, you do a lot of marketing, correct, and PR. So there's a different display even for those types of resumes in terms of what the hiring managers are looking for. So you have to do the work in terms of understanding what your industry norms are and standards are, and then apply your experience to that. Okay. So let's say, so I guess you can gather, I support putting Theta Nu Xi on your resume, but I'm not somebody who is like a stronghold on it, so there are other options though. And the other option is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is bae. I'm telling y'all, LinkedIn is bae, because not only does it help you to create more, I'll go over what the keys to it are, but there's a lot of things that you're going to have limited space on your resume that you can put on your LinkedIn profile. And I do a more extensive training about LinkedIn. Some people use it as just a landing space so that when recruiters are looking at their resume, they have another place that they can learn more about them. Some people are socially interacting and engaging. It's up to you what you want to do. I don't believe in telling people that you have to be actively engaged all the time, every day or a couple times a week, or it's totally up to you. But why LinkedIn is helpful is that it provides multiple opportunities to demonstrate your personality and personal brand, whether it's in your banner, your headline, your About Me page, all of the extra sections in there. It's consistent reinforcement of who you are, your brand. It allows you to build your network through making connections. Theta Nu Xi is great because we usually tend to start with making connections with sorority sisters, with our sorors, right? And then the next thing you know, you're meeting somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. It creates a space for you to discuss the social platforms and initiatives you support. This is really important in terms of your about section. I'm a huge advocate, and I believe we live in a time now that not only is it more socially acceptable to verbalize your social, I guess you could say, priorities, but it's not only to say that it's mandatory, but I think that as individuals, we're more centered on being more impactful socially. And so I think LinkedIn is a great space to do that. In the past, people would have shied away that because they're like, oh, well, don't connect anything socially or political to your job. We ain't living in those times no more. It ain't happening. So as you can see, I'm always Black. So that's how I move. So
Go ahead, Z.
allows you to stay connected to your sorority network, but not exclusive to activities that require active status. So I want to go off, hold on, before we go here. I want to show you my LinkedIn. Okay. So the reason why I want to show you my LinkedIn is because I'll show you how I was able to incorporate some of the things that I just talked about. And I can make it bigger. Do you need me to make it bigger for you? Can you all see it, or is it not big enough?
This is good, I think.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Okay, so when I talked about earlier about my brand and expertise is mine is helping people find a job that aligns with their mental, emotional, and physical needs, right? So from the get, I'm hitting you with something that aligns with that. My banner, nature does not hurry, everything is accomplished. It's kind of a reflection of how I move as an individual. Then I have my headline. This is where I start giving little pieces of who I am. I'm a catalyst for career transformation. I like to plant seeds. I like to coach. I'm also really good at customer service. The about section. This is where I really talk about what's important to me. I didn't really get into my social priorities, not because I'm afraid to, I just need to do another revamp, really. And I had changed my profile a little bit because I was actively in a job search. And so I wanted to make sure I had done certain specific things. But I am going to evolve it again because creating opportunities for BIPOC individuals is very important to me. So I want to incorporate that. But let's talk about where I want to mention like my Theta Nu Xi experience. We're going to scroll on down to the bottom. Accomplishments, organizations, right here. This is where you start to make your list. This is where you can give the more description, deeper description of what you did. If you think people are not looking, trust me, they are. They are looking. So write it out, use this space. Don't think that everything that you've done in your sorority work is going to be lost because you can't necessarily put it on your resume. Okay. And of course, you also have honors and awards. So you can also I put that I was National Gap Woman of the Year in 2012. Like these are just the spaces that you can use. Okay. So let's go back to the presentation. And I think we had a reflection question. Let me see here. Oh, this internet thing is fun, isn't it? Okay, there you go. And we're going to present.
There you go.
There you go. So how much do you want TNX to play a role? Oh, sorry, Margie.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, how much do you want it to play a role in your professional growth? Now that we've kind of gone through the conversation, where are you all seeing it for yourself? Ariana, you look so comfy right now. I just want you to know.
I know. I want her soft blanket.
I
Right?
know. I'm about to take a whole nap after seeing you listen.
Courtney, were you saying something? I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna say for me, I think definitely networking, definitely encouragement, and sometimes I think TNX can help me connect the dots as to like other possibilities when it comes to my professional growth.
Yes, that's really great that you said that, because again, we don't have to limit ourselves just to our sorority involvement. It's using the sorority involvement as a bridge, like Tanya talked about, you know?
Yeah, and I love how Rebecca put that everything is a part of her growth, because this speaks to our point of any job, probably you can find relevancy to other jobs that you're applying in, right? Or any volunteer roles. And so, you know, I don't know, being a dog walker, right? You can be like, well, I did organization, right? I kept a calendar of schedule. Oh, I also did that as a regional administrator at TNX. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, you got to find the competencies and the skills that connect. That's really the main thing there, I think.
Right. Being able, again, to talk to what you can contribute, the value that you have. And the other thing I wanted to say is, like, we live and we have so many opportunities to be our individual selves now. You know, everybody's got some type of like not alternative persona, but like we can be more free with who we are. I sometimes do makeup videos. I haven't done them in a while because like who's going out? But still, my point is like, you know, that's who I am and I'm proud of who I am, and it's more acceptable. You know, that's part of your brand. So what I'm trying to say is like, don't feel like we have to hold on to those old, more traditional thoughts of you have to be in a box and you can only be this way. Part of your brand is the whole picture that you feel safe sharing.
The whole you.
You create the boundaries for yourself. You don't have to live under other people's expectations, you know? So just to recap, as we come to an end, again, use your time to build your employable skills. Explore what you value and how TNX contributes to that. This is when you're making your list, okay? Invest in mutually beneficial relationships again. Maximize your social, community, and educational experience, and realize as you grow, so will your relationship with Theta Nu Xi. Okay? Any questions?
I was wondering, sorry, Rebecca, go ahead. You started first.
Okay, it's real quick. So I missed a lot, so I don't need you to go over everything, but I was wondering, was the brand inclusive of other platforms, or were you mostly focused on LinkedIn?
No, we talked about everything. The reason why I brought up LinkedIn is specific to just professional, it's more career focused, but we did say that you decide where the value lies for you. So if you get most of your branding out of using Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or anything like that, then that's where you invest in. You get to decide what that is. There isn't like a standard for you. But if you're not sure and you want somewhere to start, I would definitely recommend LinkedIn as a good starting point.
Or talking to our in-house career specialist who's leading this presentation.
I know, with my ice pack.
Yeah,
Tanya, do you have a question or a comment?
Oh, actually, it just I was gonna ask first if you thought that it would be like, do you have you written like an article that's kind of like the 3 things to do if you are a Greek life, you know, you're a member of Greek life, that you could do the basic 3 things that you should do if you're a member of Greek life and you want to include, you want to include that in your professional
no, brand? I have not, but I know you and I know you're planting a seed.
Yes, she is. I was like, NMGC newsletter? What? What's happening?
I mean, to me it sounds no, but I mean, so I was thinking that it would be a great resource to have like sort of pinned in
Sure.
the TNX professional development and networking group, for example, but and also just kind of like one of those things to have in Event Club Express, right? Just for people who maybe missed this presentation
Sure.
or maybe don't know to reach out to you, but I do think it's a fantastic if there was the key three things that you should do, these are the three things, right?
Okay.
I also just wanted to share one of the things that I did a couple of years ago on LinkedIn that I don't know if anybody has ever done, but when I was kind of like low, like I had like 4 years of working experience, 5 years of working experience, and I wasn't yet like bumping up. So I wanted to redo my LinkedIn and stuff. And so what I did is I reached out to a bunch of people who I had worked with who were in my same level and we were kind of all trying to help each other grow. And we all exchanged LinkedIn recommendations.
Yes. Yeah, I
Um,
actually had a couple. I don't know if you guys saw it as well. I'm so glad you said that. Keep going, keep going.
Yeah, anyway, like that was just a great thing because sometimes you just can't get maybe you worked with an amazing person, but there's just no way that person at the top is going to take the time to write you a recommendation that can go on LinkedIn, right? And like so, but if you're able to get somebody who is within that same thing that would never get called on for a reference, but can speak to all of those great things, we just thought that was like the perfect way to go to help us build our professional brand on LinkedIn.
Yes.
So, yeah.
No, that's beautiful. I'm glad that you mentioned that. And Margie, we can have a conversation because I do think that we probably as an organization probably need to do a training on LinkedIn for our members because I think a lot of people they see that it's growing and for some people it's like another social media space. But to Tanya's point, and that's something I actually recently did. I hit up a couple of colleagues. I was like, can you write me a recommendation? And they did it. And it just helps because as you all know, our generation, we do our research. We like to learn as much as we can about people. So creating more, of a foundation for us for people to read off of is really great. So yeah, we'll work on that. We'll definitely work on that.
And it doesn't have to be super long, right? Like it can literally be like this one great project that we worked on together. Let me tell you all the ways that Zainab is amazing doing it.
Yeah.
In a story that if you're up for a job and somebody calls one of the people that they're supposed to, one of your references, they won't know that story, but it's representative of the kind of team member that you are.
Yeah. And another thing, Tanya, I don't know if you have this on your LinkedIn, but there's another section called highlights, I guess. And it's where you can put all of your projects, any type of website you're associated with. I'll show you guys really quickly. I know we're kind of like on it. But that's another great place to show even things that you've done with TNX that were exclusive. Come on, close. Thank you. Sorry. That were exclusive to sorority stuff, but you felt like had a lot of value. Let me show you all real quickly. So on mine, I use this space to show some of the articles I've written. I have a video I recorded, featured some blog posts that I've written. But let's say like you said, you're in marketing and PR and you have a lot of great capsule projects that you've worked on. This would be a great space for you to demonstrate that. So yeah, I'm getting that we definitely need to do a LinkedIn training.
That's awesome. That's the next professional workshop. We got it.
Okay.
We got it.
Well, thankfully, I won't have a swollen face the next time.
I know. We hope you heal.
Thanks for being a trooper.
I know. I told her she's very sweet. Yeah.
Oh, I love you all, and I'll take a nap afterwards. I'm seriously about to do what Ariana's doing right now. I don't know what you got hooked up, honey, but I'm about to have it all around my neck.
Going that way. Thank you all so much. We're going to wrap up here. I'm look for the links I'll probably include in the next from the board or our programming email in terms of the event I did on Tuesday with Alejandra, Policing in America, and this event Saturday. We'll have the YouTube links and we'll post it so people can have it and rewatch it. So I appreciate you showing up on a Saturday morning. Love you
Thank
all.
you all. Be
Take
safe.
care.
For
Thank
Take care of yourself.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.